Oopala, oopala. Hello, 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 hello. Question, 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 question. My show. Episode 55, 250, 500. My show. Papa show. Papa show, paka show. Away, 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 away. Away, away, away. Bam, 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 boom, boom. Question, 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 question. Question, Brian, inside in the Brian. La 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 la. La 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 la.
These two families of architectures, one which goes for scale and it abandons home users being able to validate the chain, and then there's the Ethereum which says low transactions per second, but home users can validate the chain. And so two different universes, right? And like that's often the decentralization debate happening in our ecosystem. Now, something like Stark chain comes along, Starkware chain comes along. It's mind-blowing because what Starkware chain can do is it can be a Solana. I mean, it's designed this year to be 500 transactions per second, which is, by the way, exactly the amount of load Solana handles today. So the Starkware chain can do like 500 transactions a second. But what the Starkware chain can do is it can compress all of the history of its chain into a set of small proofs, and you can verify these proofs in any small computer on your home, in your mobile. And by reading these proofs, you can be sure that the accounting in that main Starkware chain processing 500 transactions a second is correct. So this kind of chain strikes a power balance between home users and professional validators. The professional validators can use their fancy data centers to crank out the transactions per second on the chain, but the home users are not left behind on this journey like in Solana. They can actually run their full nodes and be sure that the accounting is correct. That's the value prop of a Stark chain. The Stark chain has a second value prop, which is when you have two Stark chains, A and B, let's say Starkware and Mina, if there's a bridge between those two chains, that bridge is ultra secure, meaning that chain A and chain B are bridging to each other. If chain A gets hacked completely by the validator set running chain A, chain B is completely protected from that hack. It will never process any odd transaction, even if the chain on the other side is hacked. This is such an ultra secure bridge, and there is no custodial set of signers. So this is like the Starkware magic. Now the thing is like, okay, now today is like Ethereum 150 billion, Starkware 1 billion. Starkware is an L2. Okay, it goes to all of these conferences, it gets a community. Make sure, marriage made in heaven today. But imagine now Uniswap moves to Starkware, or the big dApps move to Starkware in like 5 years. Starkware is a, I don't know, 50 billion, $100 billion chain, which has more DeFi than Ethereum because, well, Ethereum doesn't want to be an execution layer, so people naturally have moved to Starkware. And then what is Starkware doing? Starkware is sending these proofs to Ethereum, and then Ethereum is verifying that proofs and saying, oh, the accounting on Starkware is correct. But then Starkware has an army of 10,000 nodes running in people's homes also saying that the accounting is correct. I mean, my question is, what does Ethereum provide Starkware? What is the value prop Ethereum is providing if it is not providing a community of developers in the future because it's no longer an execution layer? It's not providing security because like security comes from their amazing mathematics and the fact that there's 10,000 full nodes running in the wild. So when you see this relationship, you realize that in this L1 and L2 relationship, the L1 is not providing something of major value, which means like that this L2 can really be thought of as an independent chain, as a side chain. And like that's, I think, Erwin's argument, like that these things are actually like sovereign. And so the Ethereum vision is actually like the Cosmos vision of horizontal scaling by lots of different tokens. Now, I think this argument doesn't work so well for arbitrum and optimism. I think but it works very well for any ZK rollup. So Stark chain, the hook bars, and these loop rings of the world, this argument will work very well there.
So Meher, I mean, these L2s are currently positioning themselves as Ethereum L2s. Do you think this is just in interim strategic positioning so they can benefit from the developer community around Ethereum?
Yes. I think like that is like, I mean, there are many things humans do without thinking through the mechanics of why they are doing it, but like their actions are optimal. But I think that this is really what's happening. So I think when Ethereum goes to the world and broadcasts, we are doing 50 transactions a second, and we are not going to grow this capacity. Instead, we are going to grow into a data availability direction. People realize that, all of these successful projects on Ethereum, they are going to have to migrate somewhere. And the main thing that any budding chain needs in the ecosystem is developers to come and build on the chain. There are so many ghost chains in the world. And so if you're faced with this problem, what would you do naturally? You would go and you would become an L2. The perfect place where you can see this is in a dark horse project again in the ZK world, which is called Uqbar, UQBAR. When you go to Uqbar, you realize that, okay, they are positioned as an Ethereum L2. When you start reading their blogs, you're like, their roadmap is like, in the future, we are going to be an L1. But it's optimal to position yourself as an Ethereum L2 today, because that's how the developer flow is, right? People that are unable to scale their thing on Ethereum need a house. Like you can be that house, and you can find a community of developers. I think like this is the odd thing about I feel like this is the odd thing about the Ethereum roadmap, honestly. And I find myself sometimes like with the exception of Erwin, I find myself also like a lone voice. This kind of thinking breaks down for a game theory L2. The game theory L2s actually need Ethereum, even when they are big. I mean, if they're massively successful, they won't need Ethereum. But if they are, like going to be 2% the market cap of Ethereum, I think they better stick around with Ethereum. So,
but I mean, like, I don't know, look at Polygon or as an example. Do they need Ethereum? I mean, that is a game theoretical too, in essence.
So today Polygon is like a side chain. I think like, I mean, I'm not very up to date on Polygon, which by the way is like major project out of India. Major respect to you guys. Like I grew up in India. I know how hard it is to build a crypto thing there. But so as far as my understanding goes, it's a side chain today with an ambition to be an L2, and actively working on a technology to be an L2. Friederike would know more, and I want to hear Friederike, because like she probably has a very different view on all of this.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. So I feel like back in the day when basically sharding and proof of stake was merged together as the next upgrade to the Ethereum roadmap or the Ethereum project. And this has changed over the years, right? So basically, in the last 2 years or year and a half or so, it's become apparent that basically we won't have smart contract shards for quite a while, and the shards have kind of been reduced to a data availability layer that I also have qualms with. So basically just become a data availability layer. I think this is not ambitious enough, and also not the best value for money for Ethereum investors. I'm 100% with you on that. So basically my question is, this has never, I mean, maybe on ETH research and so on, but out in the open, it's never really been discussed. Should we kind of leave the smart contract sharding for now and kind of just go to data availability? It was like sneakily changed, the roadmaps, without really communicating about it. So there wasn't really an open discussion in the Ethereum community, because by the time that most people understood that smart shards were no longer in the immediate roadmap, basically other specs had been written, and basically there was an understanding that basically would be data availability only and so on. Do you think this was a failing on behalf of the Ethereum research community? How do you see that?
So actually, I don't know, because for me, my subjective experience is I was in crypto, sharding. I'm hit by cancer. I'm out of the game for 15 months. I return, and now it's like Ethereum specializing in data availability, right? So it strikes me like that, like it's like that thing. It's like normal Ethereum community is like frog in slowly boiling water. I am the person who's like sitting in hospital, comes out and like put deep into the water. Oh, you're a data availability. Your future is a data availability chain. The coin you're holding is for a data availability play, no longer a smart contract hosting play. So I feel the jerk immediately, right? So I don't know how this happened. And to be honest, I'm actually like an outsider to much of the discussion in the Ethereum research community. And at some level, I'm also like, I've never contributed there. Why should they listen to me also? I can also understand that. But if I had to guess what Ethereum's roadmap should be, one way to maybe look at it is to think we had a major like world computer roadmap where the idea was, okay, every decentralized application would run on Ethereum, and we were building towards that vision, and it proved hard. It proved hard to build, and it was also the case that a lot of other architectures emerged, and it's kind of become clear that for many things, people will prefer the other architecture. So the world computer vision doesn't make sense. So we want to scale down our vision to something smaller that is also very strong, right, in some way. And it's this process of scaling down that has happened, and we have scaled it down right now, at least for the next 2 years, to be data availability chain. I think there's danger hiding in scaling it down this way. I think if scaling down has to happen, and I think it has to happen, then paradoxically, the good scaling down is to rather say that Ethereum will hold the biggest DEX in the crypto ecosystem. This would be my proposal, that Ethereum makes sure that Uniswap continues to be the biggest DEX of the crypto ecosystem. And maybe I can kind of explain some of my thinking here, right? And by the way, this thinking is not related to what I've said earlier. You can believe in one while not believing in the other. So
just imagine for a moment.
Oh, I did press the button. Bloody idiot. Pressed it again. Stuffed it. Where. So how this is connected, so The Nature Science podcast. Let me hear a bit.
There is a concept of breast milk sibling. Any baby who are fed by a mother are considered to be breast.
Wait up. I put that the question. Human milk. Bitcoin. Human. What am I? Love you too.
Recently, human milk for sale. I can see some container bags with what looks like milk in them. Breast milk, healthy. Let's have a look and see if I can actually get some of this. Buy it now. And this is with second class delivery, so it will arrive in approximately 2 to 5 days' time. I'm going to contact the buyer to see if I can get it a little bit quicker. Oh, okay. That's sorted then. Paid for. And it should be arriving tomorrow. And once this arrives, I'm going to take it round to the lab to analyse it to see what is actually in this milk and is this method of transport safe. I honestly didn't think it would be that easy to get. Let's see what happens tomorrow.
Pretty surprising how straightforward that purchase was, isn't it? But what is it about human milk that's made it so desirable? We know from population studies that having this milk early in life benefits infants and could affect health later in life too.
Okay. Wouldn't human milk be like insufficient and unwell, and you'll be traveling with the air that we breathe? Scientifically couldn't be very good, but it is. You can do it. You can drink it. 1 hour, you'll still live. I love you. Very nice. Humans are developing, are going forward, or are we dying, or how are we in science future?
This milk has been honed by millions of years of evolution to provide newborns with a healthy start in life. As well as forging a strong mother-to-baby bond, human milk contains the right balance of nutrients so infants grow at the right rate. And it helps with the development of the immune system and the intestinal microbiome through the transfer of immune factors, as well as bacteria and other bugs.
But microbes are not the only cells that get transferred during feeding. Cells from the mother also go across, and they can take up residence in the baby. Gürkan Öztürk from Istanbul Medipol University has been looking into how and why this happens. What are the cells that go across, Gürkan?
They are stem cells. For some time, we know that breast milk contains stem cells, but what happens to them in the body of the baby was not known. So in our study, we tracked them to understand at least a part of their story.
We should be clear, you were looking in animals, but animals are mammals like we are, so we can suggest that the same might be true in us. But what animals did you look at, and how did you follow a cell out of the mother, across the breast, and then into the baby?
The method was quite straightforward. We have special mice whose all-bodied cells produce a green-colored fluorescent molecule. In short, GFP. We took normal mouse pups from a normal mother and had them breastfed by these green fluorescent protein-producing foster mothers. The idea is any cell in the foster mother's milk would be labeled with this green fluorescence. So after pups are fed with this breast milk, we were able to track down GFE-labeled cells in the growing pups at certain intervals with advanced microscopy. And we found them. We confirmed what we observed under microscope with molecular techniques, and yes, breast milk cells were all around pup's body.
Where in the body did they go, these glowing green cells?
Practically, we came across with the cells in many parts of the animals, including blood and with the highest amount in the bone marrow. However, our aim was to look at one of the most difficult parts of the body to penetrate, the brain, because brain is normally protected from intrusion with a special barrier. Nevertheless, they were there and they had differentiated, became neurons and support cells, namely glial cells.
Have you tested out how long these cells persist for? Do we know, once they're in the infant, how long they're likely to stay viable for?
In the mouse experiments, we found these cells living up to a year, but this was the maximum time we kept the animals. So it's halfway to their expected life duration, actually. So I think unless there is a host versus graft reaction, that is foreign tissue rejection reaction, there is no reason why these cells should die. So what's the use of these cells? It's a very interesting question. First of all, besides these stem cells, breast milk also contains immune cells. So by giving these immune cells to the baby, it is quite understandable that the baby is supported immunologically by the mother. But stem cells are quite curious because we have some new findings, additional findings in other experiments, showing that these cells lodge into bone marrow and somehow they are mobilized to injury sites.
That, which if I saw something like that, I would have, assumed it was like blood in the milk. It looked just like all the other breast milk I've seen.
There's a series of things that can be passed down from human milk down to a child. Do you think that you were worried about any infections like HIV, STIs, any bacteria that would be passed to you?
It didn't cross my mind. I know that through like childbirth and stuff like that, those can be transmitted then, but I didn't really put much thought into it being in the milk.
Let's take Tiffany out of the equation. She decides to stop giving milk to anyone. If you were presented with two new people, same situation, one which has screened the milk, one which hasn't, and they're selling it at the same price, who would you go for?
If it's the same and the only difference is that it's screened, I definitely would probably go with the screened one. It would be a different conversation. I'm like, well, this milk is actually screened and pasteurized against pathogens and make sure that I'm being as healthy as possible in this space.
Someone who is concerned about the increased adult interest in human milk is Sarah Steele, a senior research associate at Cambridge Public Health, focusing on problems at the interface of
Discover Thailand with Tripadeal for 5 nights from only 900.
I'm on the other episode now. What I have to... I was tripping out then. I was flipping out, eh? Anyway, I'm on the next episode. Just gonna go for 2 hours, is it? Next episode. The NASA and the Third Reich. Something about how we breaker technology, or breaker brain, breaker extraterrestrial, NASA breaker, debang, poof, poof, poof. Somewhere different, please, thank you. I love you. Question, debate. Question, debate. Papa. I love you too, adult family.
Did he say anything that, may lead you to believe that maybe they were at NASA all the time and kind of giving us technology, helping to boost our ability to travel through space? Did he say that?
All right, I can give you that, but the information's coming from a different man. There's a man named, William Tompkins, and he worked at the highest level of NASA. He worked directly with the top men, and he actually was involved with the space program before NASA was formed. He said that there were ETs that looked like very attractive women that were supposedly the secretaries working at NASA, not all of them, just certain ones at the highest level, and that they provided information for the human engineers. And without them, we would not have developed our capabilities in space as quickly as we did. So William Tompkins is a man who wrote a book that you might be interested in. I've also done an article on that on the website. And what I will do is I will try to make notes when you and I are done and send specific links to you.
Thank you very much. I know exactly who William Tompkins is, and I've downloaded several of his video interviews. Amazing testimony, really. He comes across totally credible. And so it's from front to back. It's a jaw-dropping account of what he has witnessed in his lifetime. I mean, it's just crazy. Okay, so tell me what else about Clark himself. I mean, did he... Okay, so I saw this, Mary Joyce, myself, a video someone captured, or you know how people, these sleuths are. It's hard to get things by people now because we are using our ability to critically think and break down certain events and not just take everything for face value. But someone had captured, I guess it was President Bush, Daddy Bush, going through a NASA control center. And they had a room set up where it looked like, you know, the astronauts were out in space, but they really weren't. I mean, and they were, you know, I guess it was like a live feed, and they were kind of talking and presenting to the public like they were out in space and they were actually in a controlled environment around other people here on Earth. Do you know if they fake things like that? I mean, have you heard that sometimes NASA claims they're in the space station and they're not?
I don't know. I really don't know. I probably should pursue it. I haven't. I do know that one of the things that Clark did tell me was that two of his, he knew the Apollo 15 crew, and astronaut James Irwin was a friend of Clark's. And let's see here. I can give you some quotes from him as far as the moon goes. He said, yes, Dave Scott, who was the commander of the Apollo crew, Dave Scott and I observed several small whitish or metallic objects flying overhead. Whatever those things were, they had intelligence, performing tight angular dives, blah, blah, blah. We heard no sound of thrust. They were just very fast critters. I love quotes like that because it just sounds the way people really talk. And they found lunar tracks on the moon, and this was before we ever had any vehicle, that could
reach the moon,
go on the surface. Yeah, the lunar rover wasn't existing then. And so those tracks were created by something else or someone else. And he said, quote, it almost appeared as exploratory mining activities into the lunar surface, with a few efforts to perhaps do some digging. They saw structures in the far distance above and beyond the mountains of what they call Hadley Rill. The structures appeared like glass or crystalline. He took 15 photos of the craft and the structures that he saw, and he turned them over when he landed on Earth. NASA took them. He wanted them back, or at least copies of them. They only gave him one, and they had erased the structure that was in his original photo. So the efforts that they make to keep us from knowing things are incredible. And perhaps, people are quick to think that the thing might be staged, like you were suggesting. But maybe that was a cover-up too, maybe because they didn't want you to see what really happened on the moon rather than faking it totally. I would tend to lean in that direction.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I want to say also that, and I saw this on your blog too. I never delete any email you send me as far as your articles are concerned. I have all of them. But you sent me one, and it talks about the lady that was the whistleblower for NASA. She died. What was her name?
Her name was Donna Hare.
Yeah, tell everybody what Donna Hare did. Tell us about her.
Yeah, okay. She and others were artists for NASA, and one of their jobs was to airbrush out things that were found on the moon. And, she confessed this on a radio station in Washington, D.C. Again, somebody who thought it was just wrong that the public didn't know the reality of what's going on. And I was able to also get a picture from NASA of 2 towers on the moon that had been airbrushed. Well, early on, they were doing some pretty sloppy airbrushing. So you can still easily tell where those towers were. And what makes it official is all the NASA labels are running along the top and the bottom of this photograph. And again, I posted that, and what I will do is I will do my best to remember what I talked to you about and send you links.
Have you ever kind of just sit and just think about why? I mean, the United States is not the only country in the world. I mean, you got other countries that are capable of coming up with technology to take pictures of things that are happening on the moon surface. You know, China is doing the same thing, Russia, all these other countries. It's got to be a worldwide collusion that no one is coming forward with any type of photograph showing, you know, there's activity or there was activity on the moon or on Mars or anywhere else. Have you thought about that at all? I mean, there's a cover-up going on.
Well, this may surprise you. Some of the people believe that the ETs don't think we're ready for the full knowledge of what's going on, and that they are putting a limit on it too. So it may not just be our governments. The governments may simply be carrying out the wishes of the ETs.
So you think, okay, so, if we're seeing the structures on the moon, China's seen it, Russia's seen it, and you're saying that maybe possibly that these ETs are calling the shots and saying, no, don't tell anybody about those right now?
Let me give you an official quote from this. There was a man, he's still living. His name is Professor Hayam Ashid. He was Israel's Security Space Program Director for 29 years, 1981 to 2010. Great credentials. And this is a quote from him that was in the Jerusalem Post on December 8th, 2020. The UFOs have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. Trump was on the verge of revealing, but the aliens in the Galactic Federation are saying, wait, let people calm down first. They don't want to start mass hysteria. They want to make us sane and understanding. I think the quote, he must have been speaking in Hebrew, and because the translation's a little rough. He also said there's an agreement between the U.S. government and the aliens. They signed a contract with us to do experiments here. They, too, are researching and trying to understand the whole fabric of the universe, and they want us as helpers. He also said there's an underground base in the depths of Mars where their representatives are, and also are American astronauts. So maybe it's the ETs that are keeping this quiet.
Yeah, and I think that scientist, was he a scientist?
I don't know what his academic credentials are. He was a professor. He certainly had to have some technical background to even serve in the position.
Yeah, he was one of the most well-respected individuals in his field, is all I know. And I think that he said all this on television, from my memory.
Okay, all I had was the article from the Jerusalem Post. There's probably more.
I think he was interviewed, and I saw it on YouTube. It was amazing, actually. That made headlines. So thank you for bringing that up. People can say his name again so people can look it up.
I'll say it and spell it because I may say it wrong. It's Hayam Ashid, and it's Haim. Last name is Eshed. Hayam Ashid.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, so anything else you want people to know about Clark? I mean, you talked to the guy, and I'm sorry to hear about his passing. I really am. I commend him, though, for having backup plans to publish his book after he had gone. After he's gone, have you had a chance to?
Excuse me. I know you have a great question, but I don't want this to slip out my ear. The Nazis, there are many who say that the Nazis are still involved with many different things. And there's a man named William Pollock. He's no longer living. He designed the security for Area 51 and also for Air Force One. So, he was deep into all sorts of stuff. and he was called to a meeting at Tonopah. Now, Tonopah is more remote than or secretive than Area 51. And so they were all called to this meeting, and this plane pulled up almost right to the door. A man got out who he said was dressed in high European style, walked in, sat in the back of the room, and when everybody did their presentations, or after they did, he spoke, and he spoke in what was described as high German. Then he got back on his plane and took off. And this man, even though he had been involved with such high-ranking security operations, I think was a bit surprised that this German man had so much power.
I hadn't heard of him. William Pollack. Is it Pollack?
I don't know if I can spell it right or not. I come up with Pawelec, perhaps.
It's totally off. Okay, so is there anywhere online, Mary Joyce, where we can see his, what he was talking about, or?
Yeah, I've got that on the website too. I hope I can remember all these things I'm going to promise you.
It's okay. I'll try to send you an email afterwards because I'm taking notes here. Okay. So. Okay.
Well, maybe it's easier for you to send me. Or you can
I'll send you what I
want.
Okay. I'll send you what I want.
Okay.
That is very interesting. One thing I'm going to tell you about William Tompkins too. You mentioned him, and I advise anyone to go get his books, listen to his interviews or whatever. I mean, he's just amazing. But he also witnessed the Battle of Los Angeles when he was a kid. He saw that, where the military was shooting at UFOs in LA in front of thousands of people. That was amazing. Have you heard his testimony on that?
Not really. He may have addressed it in the book, but I wouldn't be able to speak on it.
Okay, well, I'm just putting that out there for people if they want to know about that. It's the first time I've ever heard anyone actually talk about it, as far as a firsthand witness to that event. What else? Can you tell us anything else about Clark that you found interesting? I know he's gone, but have you talked to his relatives? Did he leave anything else besides his notes and things to anyone to look at? Did he have any videos or pictures, is what I'm getting at? Did he have anything like that?
Not that I had access to. And I should give my kid sister some credit here. She was friends of the woman who rented a room to Clark after he got booted out of NASA. And it was because of my kid sister that I even got to go on that Sunday afternoon to meet with him. And it was just a small group of us in a very small bungalow. And I'm just very grateful I was able to do that.
Yeah. Did he ever seem scared for his life?
Yeah, I think so. I think most people who have blown the whistle get concerned about those things. But he was a very smart man, and I'm sure he did a lot of tap dancing around problems.
Yeah. Real quick, if you don't mind.
On the podcast.
What happened? What's this one?
That's death, sex, and money. We are not afraid of hard conversations.
It's not surprising that companies will respond to those kinds of incentives.
Okay. Now. This is the last one. I'm breaking it free. Due to 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Mine. I don't know how. I should give you the links how to get this, but I didn't write it down because it goes so fast when I lose it on the Bobcast. It's on the Google Bobcast, and I'm doing it. I'm about to cry. I don't know why. I'm red on the face. I'm stupid. Oh my God. Debate. I love you. I love you. Oh, I love you. Very nice. Okay. Debate. Extraterrestrial. Other planets. Fantastic. I love you. Please join me in my show. The way I do it. Show. Wow. Bam. Bam, ba-dum, bam. Bam, ba-dum, bam. La. Oh, hey, funny. I love you, I love you, I love you. Debate, opinion, reply. I am Hector. No, I keep saying it. Intermix Hector, YouTube, subscribe, Intermix Hector. I love you, I love you, love you, love you. Sexy technology, future technology, everything, debate, boom, pa, yeah.
So if you calculate 25 to 30% of $10 billion, you are really talking about a lot of money. And so it really is not surprising that companies will respond to those kinds of incentives. We need to be able to match that if we want American companies to create, and also foreign companies to create the fabs in the US.
I think it was also interesting that there was a rare bipartisan cooperation here in Congress, recognizing the weight of this issue.
Yeah, and there are many aspects, there are several aspects of this. One is, you mentioned earlier, the defense side of things, but there is also the jobs side of things, which is that the semiconductor industry really pays very good salaries, employs a lot of people, and there is a multiplicative effect in which each job in the semiconductor industry creates 5.7 jobs, as the Semiconductor Industry Association estimates. So the job implications of siting semiconductor fabs in the US is very significant, and so you can see how this ought to appeal across the entire political spectrum.
I know there's a lot at stake here, and the tech and research industries have had their eyes on this bill for months, as I said before. How did you feel watching it unfold this? When we come back, if given the same set of decisions, and Cass Sunstein is now available in paperback.
Bias in the theory of measurement is simply an average error that is not zero. That's bias. Noise in the theory of measurement is simply variability, so that you could measure a line and measure it repeatedly. You're not going to get, if your ruler is fine enough, you're not going to get the same measurement twice in a row. There's going to be variability. That variability is noise. And you can see that noise is a problem for accuracy, because assume.
Like, how about sound, light, other theory of opening something like a portal or something strange. You go over the top. You did something like magic. You became reptilian. You became someone else. You did this. You became so smart. You're clever. You're beautiful. Anything, debate, whatever, and could be a number 1, 0, your number, your letter. I'm red on the face. Very, very nervous now. Very, very nervous now.
That there is no bias. That is, that the average of your measurements is precisely equal to the length of the line. It's still obviously you're making.
If you create, say, an amount where you're kind of over the top of the building. Oh shit! I'm red. I'm about to cry. Oop, sorry. The companies, enterprise, sciences, technology, everything sexy. You are beautiful. You need me to understand this, that. The whole lot is blown up to be beautiful. Hate, love, relationship.
Mistakes if your judgments or your measurements are scattered around the value. So that's noise and that's bias.
So why do people make those mistakes? Why do we have people measuring things and then coming up with different results?
Well, there are several reasons. One reason is that really people are inherently noisy. So that, when you sign your name twice in a row, it doesn't look exactly the same. We cannot, in fact, exactly repeat ourselves. We're in a series of states, and those states have an effect on the judgments we make. We call that occasion noise. So, a judge passing sentences is not the same in the morning and in the afternoon. The judge is not the same when in a good mood and in a bad mood. And then there are two other kinds of noise. To understand the next form of noise, the easiest is, let's stay with the judge. So some judges are more severe than others. Some judges are lenient. We call that level noise, because the level of their judgment, there is an individual bias. But then the most interesting source of noise is that judges do not see the world in the same way. That is, if they had to rank defendants or crimes, they would not rank them alike. Some judges...
You say if you have some criminal or you're doing that, you have to leave or go walking and I have to get food. 5 finger this guy, this do that, spaceship portal, this. I'm turning. Everything. Wow, I'm different. Oh, I'm different. Wow, I'm different. Love myself. Get to go. Wow, different people, different planets, different things. Numbers, letters, point, intermixhector YouTube channel.
Are really more severe.
Terrestrial.
With young defendants than with old defendants. For other judges, it's the opposite. Those differences, which we call pattern noise, they are really interesting, and they are, in quite a few situations, they are the main source of noise.
Is that because that's where biases may influence the noise, because people have different biases that makes it noisy?
That's exactly it. Noise is really produced by the fact that is certainly pattern noise, that people have different biases.
You know, a lot of us have experienced that.
War, bombs, bullets, criminals, drugs, anything extra, something different. What is the noise? What is the noise? Population. Why? Scientists, technology, future. I always see a lot. We are now, when we die, to the end, where we end.
When we go to doctors and we get a second or a third opinion, the doctors are looking at us, conducting the same tests, and yet they come up with a different diagnosis or a different prognosis.
There is a lot of noise in medicine. This is really one of the reasons we wrote that book. It's that we find a lot of noise in very important systems in society. So, there are easy cases. It's easy to diagnose a common cold. But the moment that things get more challenging, different physicians make different judgments. And on very difficult cases, of course, there is a lot of noise. So noise in medicine is a big problem.
Speaking about that, when thinking about judgments that have a wide range of decisions, I can't help but think about the COVID pandemic. How can the concept of noise help us better understand how differently world leaders decide to deal with the virus?
Well, it's one of the best examples of noise that we know. That is, leaders at all levels, from municipalities to leaders of countries, were faced with the problems were quite similar. And they made a wide variety of different choices. That's an example of noise. And each of them did it thinking that they were doing the right thing. But obviously, they couldn't all be doing the right thing if they were doing different things in the same situation.
So how might leaders then be able to make better decisions and reduce noise around the very complicated decisions that need to be made about COVID?
Well, we have a piece of advice that is unlikely to be taken up very soon. But our advice is that in the case of COVID, it's a matter of designing how you're going to make the decision and making the decision in a disciplined way. When you design the process by which you will reach conclusions, then you are going to have less noise. People are more likely to reach the same conclusions if they all follow a sensible process to get to the decision. There is one source of noise that is not going to be controlled by that, and this is differences in values. So if people want different things, then they will reach different judgments. But if you're faced with an objective problem, you're trying to control the number of hospitalizations, that's a problem where the value is pretty obvious. With the systematic process of decision-making, people ought to, and we think would, be less noisy than they were.
When talking about making these decisions, what about using artificial intelligence or machine learning? There was a study that came out last year showing that the AI was better than the dermatologist in detecting melanoma. How does AI reduce noise in decision-making?
AI does better than reducing noise. Any algorithm, any systematic rule that takes inputs and combines them in a specified way will have one crucial property. it will be noise-free. You present an algorithm with the same problem twice, you're going to get the same answer. But in general, algorithms are noise-free, and it turns out this is one of their major advantages over humans. That is, when you compare the performance of people to the performance of algorithms and rules, in many situations, the algorithms and rules are already superior to people or match people. And the main reason for the lack of accuracy of people compared to algorithms is noise. People are noisy, algorithms are not.
But you'll get pushback from doctors or other people who say, every patient is different. I have to treat every patient differently, and that takes a human interaction. How do you answer that?
Well, I answer that by looking at data and by comparing mistakes, the number of mistakes that are made. And it is true that humans have that tendency of viewing each case as unique. But it's also true that if you take just a few objective measures in the situation and you combine them appropriately, in many situations, an objective combination of scores is going to do better than a human judge. Although the human judge has access to a lot of information and has many powerful intuitions.
I hear that same kind of argument about how AI is better than people. When I talk to AI people who are designing self-driving cars, they say, we get a lot of pushback that the AI is not smarter, but if you look at the data, you'll see that a computer will drive a car better than a person, meaning that there'll be fewer accidents.
Well, all of us are biased against algorithms. And the reason we are is that when a self-driving car causes an accident, we look at that accident and we say, oh, I wouldn't have done it. A human driver would just not have made that mistake. But of course, no one asks the self-driving car about the mistakes that humans make. And the same is true in all contexts, where you measure the performance of people against the performance of algorithms. The question is overall accuracy. But the way that people look at it, mistakes that artificial intelligence makes look stupid to us. They are mistakes we wouldn't make. And the fact that we make more mistakes overall than the AI, that's not something we respond to.
One of the ideas that stuck out to me in the book was about overconfident leaders who too heavily trust their own intuition instead of weighing evidence, or are too confident in a decision that's more due to chance than their own judgment. What's going on here?
Well, what's going on is that most of us are overconfident most of the time. And in a way, it's a very good thing. By overconfident, what I mean is that we look at the world and we see the world in a particular way. And we feel a sense of validity. We feel that the reason we see the world as we do is because that's the way it is. What we cannot imagine is that other people looking at exactly the same situation would see it differently. Because I see the truth and I respect your judgment. I expect you to see exactly the same thing that I do. Now, that's one aspect of it. Overconfidence is almost built in. But overconfidence in intuition is, in a way, particularly pernicious when it's not justified. Now, there are cases where intuitive expertise exists. So chess players can look at a chess situation and every move that occurs to them is going to be a strong one. But people feel they have intuitions when there is no way that they could have correct, valid intuitions. For example, anybody who makes predictions about what will happen in the stock market to individual stocks in particular is just deluding herself. And it's not possible. And yet people feel that it is possible. They have intuitions and they trust them. And it's a big problem.
I'm Ira Plato. This is Science Friday from WNYC Studios. If you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman about some of the flaws in human judgment. One of the things I've been batting around a lot lately is what biases lead people to believe something that is patently false, specifically how so many people bought into the big lie that Donald Trump really won the election, and then the ensuing insurrection of January 6th. What makes people believe in an easily disputable lie so fully?
Well, we have the wrong idea about where beliefs come from, our own and those of others. We think we believe in whatever we believe because we have evidence for it, because we have reasons for believing. When you ask people, why do you believe that? They are not going to stay dumb. They're going to give you reasons that they're convinced explain their beliefs. But actually, the correct way to think about this is to reverse it. People believe in the reasons because they believe the conclusion. The conclusion comes first. And the belief in the conclusion, in many cases, is largely determined by social factors. You believe what people that you love and trust believe. And then you find reasons for it. And they tell you reasons for believing that, and you accept the reasons. But it's largely a social phenomenon. It's not an error of reasoning. And that, by the way, is true for your beliefs and my beliefs. Your beliefs and my beliefs reflect how we've been socialized. It reflects the company we keep. It reflects our belief in certain ways of reaching conclusions, like a belief in the scientific method. Other people just have different beliefs because they've been socialized differently, and because they have different beliefs, they accept different kinds of evidence, and the evidence that we think is overwhelming just doesn't convince them of anything.
Are there cases in which variability in judgment is actually a good thing?
Oh, many cases. That is, we define noise, and that's important. We define noise as unwanted variability, so that when you have underwriters in an insurance company looking at the same risk, you would want them to reach approximately your.
How is Facebook, YouTube, any website, international computer network like Russia? What's Russia technology, like cyberspace and all this stuff? Are we loving? Are we not? Can someone create more petrol, more gas, more ideas, thinking different, or your mind, my mind? Excuse me, please.
Exactly the same conclusions, but I want variability in the judgments of my film critics. I want variability in the judgments and opinions of people who are creating or inventing new things. So variability is often very desirable, but in some contexts, variability is noxious.
Mm-hmm. One last question. I've been following your career for a long time, and I've always wondered what got you and your longtime former psychologist partner, the late Amos Tversky, so interested in human biases and studying. Where did you fellas decide this was something you wanted to study?
Well, it was really ironic research. We found that we were prone to mistakes. It was all about statistical thinking when we started. And we noticed that we had wrong intuitions about many statistical problems. We knew the solutions, and yet the wrong intuitions remain attractive.
Can you put a finger on why we have so many flaws in our intuitive judgment?
So it's not that you could, we could perform surgery and excise all the sources of biases from human cognition. If you removed all the sources of biases, you would remove a great deal of what makes cognition accurate in most situations. So we are built to reach conclusions, not necessarily in a logical way, but in a heuristic way. And heuristic ways of thinking always necessarily lead to some mistake, although on average they could lead to correct judgments and faster than reason would do. It's not that we're studying incorrect mechanisms. The mechanisms are very useful. That mechanism, which is usually useful, will lead people to systematic errors.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Kahneman, for taking time to be with us today.
It's a pleasure talking with you.
Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner, Professor Emeritus at Princeton University, is the co-author of the book Noise, A Flaw in Human Judgment. If you want to hear more from Daniel Kahneman and how he approaches his work, go to sciencefriday.com/noise to watch a profile of him from our Desktop Diary video series back in 2013. If you missed any part of this program or you'd like to hear it again, subscribe to our podcast or ask your smart speaker to play Science Friday. I'm Ira Flato. Have a great weekend.
Shocking. Everybody.
Science Friday. Whoa, I'm freaking out. Okay, I was meant to put the music. Okay. Oh, it's gone for now. What's up there? What's up there? Oh, it's going to go for now. What's it here? Oh, my amigo, what is música, fantástico, fan cantando, late unos tutitos, amiguitos, arriba, festival, compadre.
Hi, I'm Sam Hawley. This is ABC News Daily.
ABC, where's the bear? We'll have to learn. It's gone for an hour. My God. Wow, wow.
This week, 4 democracy advocates were executed in Myanmar, a year and a half since the military seized control from the civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Today, Human Rights Watch Deputy Asia Director Phil Robinson on the first executions in 30 years, why he fears there's more to come.
I'm Phil Rob. 117 people. The rise of local militia that are attacking military and police targets. And so they've decided to determine
up to this.
Well, there's 2 thought processes about this. The first one is that they are trying to...
Maya, is that in Vietnam? I don't know, Maya. Why? So, criminal war or guerrilla warfare or understanding of mind control to have civil war or to destroy your own civilization, like your collapse of the money. Now you got nothing, you must fight, kill yourself. No, come on. That's not right. Help one another. One next country to the other or something. Lovable, man. I can't understand relationship, bad, good, ugly relationship, man. My God. Those countries.
To intimidate the Burmese people, and I think
in the houses and all this, it look bad anyway, like war, crime. It's disgusting, yucky, man. Fuck them.
That is quite clear. The second aspect of it is that they're desperate, that this is a military regime that is facing massive opposition from the people, a determined opposition that is really countrywide and is growing. While at the same time, the military itself is stretched even more thinly by the resistance against their actions, by the rise of local militia that are attacking military and police targets. And so they've decided that they need to pull out all the stops. And the concern right now is that we're going to see more executions taking place because our latest figures that there's 117 people who are on death row who have been convicted, like Ko Jimmy and the other 3, in front of military tribunals on fabricated, politically motivated charges, and who may be executed any time. And right now we're tracking rumors coming out of Myanmar that there may have been more executions in the last 24 hours, but we have not been able to confirm that yet.
You mentioned the large number of pro-democracy activists that are in jail at the moment. We know Aung San Suu Kyi was detained after that coup in 2021. What's happened to her?
Well, she has been convicted on a number of politically motivated and frankly bogus charges. It appears that the tactics for the military is to weigh her down with so many years of prison sentence that she will never see freedom again. She's 76 years old. I think they want to put her away for the rest of her life. No one has seen her except her lawyers. Her lawyers have faced threats of criminal action and have gag orders against them to speak out against any sort of provide any information publicly about what has happened at the closed-door trials where she has been tried. And there are literally dozens of more charges that have been stacked up against her.
How big a role, Phil, can a nation like Australia play? Foreign Minister Penny Wong says she's appalled. She says the government is considering sanctions.
To take that further, targeted sanctions. I think there is a strong case that has been made. They are something that is under active consideration by the Australian government.
Well, it's time for Australia to get off the fence. It's ridiculous that Australia has been such an incredible laggard in the consensus of like-minded countries to at least do some limited sanctions, targeted sanctions against the military and its business interests. It should have already happened. It should happen now. And it reminds me, after we saw the Australian citizens executed in Indonesia several years back, there was all this big talk in Canberra about how opposition to the death penalty was going to become a core element of Australian foreign policy. Well, where is it? Where is that policy? What we're looking at right now is a military...
I'd like to say something. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but ain't we helping, Australia's helping South Pacific, that lady Wong or whatever, South Pacific, ain't we doing heaps? Don't you recommend that? Or don't you recommend that our army probably been told by NATO or someone talking to the government, and the army gone to NATO, UN, NATO, whatever, to Afghanistan? Relax, don't talk too fast. Relax, please. To Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, those countries are beautiful. Everyone's beautiful. We Australians have a lot of policy. Yes, we can sanction anyone, send a note or something, or put it in, requested. What is going on there is very bad, and Australia doesn't like it. It will tell the world, internet, whatever. But Australia is in a lot of struggling. We're lifting. We're going up from the floods, from the government, from the army, from everything. We're helping South Pacific. I think we're helping Chile, Argentina. I think we're helping Philippines. Countries are rich. The people are not. By God. Oopala. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying that in a respect and honor that countries who do wrong should be sanctioned, maybe, but maybe not. How is war crime? Is war crime where the president tells to kill, or the army kills? Or how is history of people being chased out or moved out? How this and that? Because I hear burning the church, maybe incredible. No, don't burn this. Please don't be naughty. Be good to your country. Don't protest like that. Don't shoot rubber bullets. My God, I'm from Chile and I have a lot of things to say about protesting. Okay.
Penalty was going to become a core element of Australian foreign policy. Well, where is it? Where is that policy? What we're looking at right now is the thanks that Australia has been such an incredible laggard in the consensus of like-minded countries to at least do some limited sanctions, targeted sanctions against the military and its business interests. It should have already happened. It should happen now. And it reminds me, I mean, after we saw the Australian citizens executed in Indonesia several years back, you know, there was all this big talk in Canberra about how opposition to the death penalty was going to become a core element of Australian foreign policy. Well, where is it? Where is that policy? You know, what we're looking at right now is a military regime in Southeast Asia that has executed 4 political prisoners and is threatening to do more. You know, what level of outrage is required for Canberra to actually step up and do something? So I would hope that the foreign minister and the new government would find the courage of their convictions and catch up with the rest of the international community and hit Myanmar with the kind of sanctions that are really required.
Australia has been concerned about the Australian economist Sean Turnell, who of course was imprisoned at the time of that coup, and Australia has been working behind the scenes to have him free.
Sean Turnell remains in legal limbo in Myanmar 4 months after he was first detained.
Hey, and one more thing, Australia is looking for more jobs, creating more jobs, more this, that, and the other, electricity, mining, everything. It's all corrupt. Maybe it's going up. My cigarettes are heavy. I buy 25 grams, $49, whatever it is, $50. Last me 3-4 days. 25 grams tobacco. How's that? Apples, how much are they? $5 a kilo, are they? Bananas, $2 a banana. My God, the way of living is hard. Everything's hard. I'm sorry to say this, but we are going to talk to America, Australia. We're doing everything. Now, Australia's good, but still, Australia inside is working hard to live. The Aborigines, the people, the news. Google it. Australia is active. Hard. I'm red on the face. La 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 la. I love you.
Of that coup, and Australia has been working behind the scenes to have him free.
Sean Turnell remains in legal limbo in Myanmar 4 months after he was first detained in a widespread crackdown on supporters of Aung San Suu Kyi. Professor Turnell, who was an economic advisor to the Burmese leader...
Would sanctions, do you think, harm those efforts?
No, because I think at the end of the day, no matter what Australia does, they're going to convict him anyways. You know, the idea that somehow he's going to be let off is just, you know, I think a fantasy. The reality is he was a close colleague of Aung San Suu Kyi. The junta believes that he has information that connects Aung San Suu Kyi to various different things, and they're going to hold him for as long as they can. I hate to say it, Sean Turnell's probably going to face a long prison term.
And all those people in jail, all those people in jail for supporting democracy feel they must be, if they know about these executions, they must be terrified.
Well, I suspect that many of them are. And I think that's part of the intent of the military regime. You know, they want to intimidate not only the people who are opposing them, but also the people they've arrested and their families. They're aiming to enforce silence over the Myanmar people. And, you know, and the fact that we can't even get any sort of significant attention on Myanmar because everybody's off focused on Ukraine or somewhere else, you know, indicates once again that the people of Myanmar's supposition that their lives are somehow less meaningful than everyone else's is being proven true by the international community. And that is astonishing, that's outrageous, and that's unacceptable. You know, the fact that governments are continually failing to do even the basic minimum to hold this military accountable is shocking to me.
Phil Robinson is the Deputy Asia Director of Human Rights Watch. This episode was produced and mixed by Chris Dengate. Additional production by Sydney Peed. Our supervising producer is Stephen Smiley. Over the weekend, catch This Week with David Lipson. He'll be taking a look at Anthony Albanese's plans to end the so-called climate wars and Europe's gas crisis. I'm Sam Hawley. ABC News Daily will be back again on Monday. Thanks for listening.
Okay, it's finished now. Time to cut it. Okay, it's gone heaps. I just like to say it's a lot of work. It has been upcoming award. It's an award winning. I'm about to cry. Intermix, YouTube, intermixhector, YouTube, intermixhector, El Chileno. Australia is working hard, everything. The politics here, there. If you want to send like they did to the parliament or European country or something, Australia can go there, check it out. See if they got good weed, how to make bread, food or something. Australia might go investigate with different politicians, with tourism, other combinations, selling computers, being friendly to one another like this. Politicians come to politicians to different countries, fly to inside for them to be on TV in other countries, because China might have politicians, nice ones, might go to somewhere in Africa or something, and the Chinese politicians now on TV in their country in Africa. You know what I mean? Different ideas to combine our news provider, insider, try to create, to move out, do something. The politicians in your country go to another and they become the news there, and they talk about tanks, weapons, guns, drugs, criminality, insanity. Fantastic. Whoa, what was that? I don't know, mi amigo. Okay, anyway, we're working hard. We are lucky. It's an award winning. You remember this? An award winning. It's not like the guy went over there. An award winning thing that the Australian Prime Minister went to Ukraine or wherever he went to Europe. He had time to do that. He's gonna help what he says or whatever. An award winning. Punish me, don't punish anyone else. Anyway, but it's good. Here in Australia, you work. You can make whatever you want out of it. There's a school called TAFE, a place. People, if you can make it in here, some people like it. Some people want to go back to their country after they make a little bit. And over there, the other custom families help them out. Good, like this, like that. People are interested. Anyway, I'm happy, but it's hard. It's like if they throw a bomb, we throw a bomb. If they argue, we are working together like a master. Like it's award winning, to go to the Olympics. The sport people are nice. Anyway, I'll see you later. I must go. Look, it's gone. Mucho largo, amigo. I have to. My brain is funny now. Adios. Thank you. I love you. And this was long time now. Reply. I love you. Reply. Share it. Share like. Subscribe.